Hello and welcome to the show. I'm here on the crew, or as I like to call it now, Ministry of Silly Wings, because we've got a Ford Raptor with what? It's just why have we got a wing there? Why have we got a wing? Why is it so stupidly large? And I don't get it. I don't understand the point of that wing. It's got like the oh god, what is it, like Suzuki SX4 hill climby style sort of front splitter snowplow arrangement. It's quite stupid, let's be honest. It's quite a ridiculous vehicle, this Ford Raptor. And of course we've got the supercharger sticking out of the bonnet. Yeah, it's a crazy looking vehicle. It also gets quite unhappy if I turn the steering over the bumps here. This is a performance spec vehicle, and we'll go into mobile car tuning. There you go, basic level 40 stuff, 929 horsepower, almost 900 torques. Quite heavy, I say quite heavy, 4,300 pounds, a little bit heavier than the Silverado we had last time. Not as heavy as the Hummer. It's not as planted or as nice to drive as the Hummer, but I'm hoping it's still going to be fairly planted, although that splitter at the front could cause problems. We saw last time running up the Pikes Peak hill climb, the Ferrari had some real problems. I think that was a performance spec 458 Italia Special. Did not like the hill climb because the front of the car kept scraping on the floor. So it is possible that we could have a similar problem with this vehicle, as it has an absolutely it's just ridiculous. It's a crazy looking vehicle, the Raptor. But I'm going to give it a go. We're going to see how quickly we can get up the Pikes Peak hill climb course. And as per usual, I've got one attempt. Just one attempt with this vehicle. We're going to be running from cockpit view to get up the hill climb course as fast as possible. Everything shakes and wobbles when you when you rev it. We will not be using any nitro on this run. Here goes. Let's hope. I mean, it's going to be pretty decent, I would expect. It is a four-wheel drive vehicle, so stability should be a little bit better, and the all-important traction over some of the bumps. That is quite key. However, it isn't as nice to drive as the Hummer. It will slide already through that first corner there. I just feel it sliding around. Hello, officer. I'm not at all racing a crazy vehicle. Little bit of traffic on this first corner where it tends to like to spawn. It's just not quite as nice as some of the other vehicles. You might hear it. It's just screeching, just spinning up its wheels through here. Whereas the Hummer, had no problems at all with the Hummer around here. It was just flat out everywhere. The Silverado, I didn't have particular problems with. Or maybe a tiny bit with it with the Chevy. But this, I'm constantly now a little bit concerned over some of the bumps with this vehicle. It feels a little bit sluggish as well on the handling front. It doesn't feel sort of snappy, it doesn't feel like a twitchy car, but it does feel a bit slow, which is not surprising considering the weight. Oh dear, turn that corner a tiny bit early. Oh, and then we've got a big slide. We're catching up to something, which is not ideal. Yeah, it feels slightly sluggish, slightly unmanoeuvrable, considering the weight. That is sort of to be expected. We are about to overtake. We're going to overtake a Bentley in a Raptor. That's an interesting sight. Oh, Bentley's on nitro and spinning all of its power away. Bentley's not really causing any problems for me on this run at this moment in time. Yeah, the Raptor is heavy and a bit ungainly. And then, now the Bentley's been a pain in the arse. They didn't really lose much very little time in that anyway. Yeah, the Rat is just a little bit unresponsive, and it doesn't have the advantage of the traction that you got from the Hummer. Having said that, it is bloody quick. I just looked at the speedo and realised how fast we were going. It's certainly not slow, the Raptor, as we go through towards these final couple of corners. There is a police car somewhere around here. Oh yeah, we've got quite a bit of understeer there. Slightly pinged it off the wall, but it is around the final corner, past the telephone pole, and the Raptor has made it to the top of the course. Yeah, it's not a terrible car to drive. It's just not amazingly good. A little bit sluggish, and it doesn't have the lovely safe the safe aspects that the Hummer did. That's a really weird sentence. I'm not going to get used to saying that sentence anytime soon. We didn't scrape the front of the car up on the floor, though. The splitter was high enough so that we didn't have that particular issue. Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. Nothing spectacular, though, aside from the visuals. The obvious visual. It's silly. It's very, very silly. Our next vehicle is the McLaren MP4-12c. I am running the circuit spec one. This is essentially the GT3 version of the McLaren. So yes, we have got another large wing, but it's not quite as ridiculous as some of the other cars. It is a sizable wing, but it's not quite as ridiculous. Interesting rear. I guess it's an air scoop. I assume that's what it's for there on the back of the car, sort of the bottom of the rear window. It looks kind of strange from some angles, but never mind. Yeah, proper full-on circuit spec car. This one could go very quickly up the hill. The Viper does lead the times at the moment. I'll just let the policeman go. Don't worry about the race car parked on the dirt here. It could go very, very quickly. The Dodge Viper leads the table, and that was a circuit spec car. There are some risks with these sort of vehicle. First of all, it is very low to the ground, as you can see at the front of the car. The splitter may be too low. We saw the Ferrari really struggle with scraping the splitter all the way up the hill. The other downside is these circuit cars can be, they are fairly powerful, and they can have problems with wheel spinning when we go over some of the bumps. Speaking of power, I'll show you the statistics quickly. 615 horsepower, so decent on the power front. Not quite as much torque, but it is a very light car. 2,600, or relatively speaking, very light on the crew. 2,600 pounds. So it does certainly stand a good chance of going quickly up the mountain. Is whether it spins its wheels up too much and whether it scrapes itself on the floor constantly. We will find out. There's still a policeman around somewhere. I'm not sure where, but never mind. We're going to get going and see how the McLaren fare. Already sparks are flying. That's fairly common though with such a steep initial incline, if you like to see the spark. A lot of cars have had their splitters sparking off that bit. It's how we do through these next few corners. Oh dear. I could just hear the noise of splintering carbon fibre as we run up the course. That's not a good sign. Yeah, the front of this car is really... It's just constant sparks. That's all we get. Interesting lighting effects, sure. That's what we're going for, okay? That's completely and utterly true there. That's not so good. We are doing very well on the power delivery front though, which is reassuring. The big concern with these circuit cars is that the bumps would be too rough for them. Certainly the circuit hot rod really struggled trying to get up this course. The Viper did a lot better. This is doing also very well. I'm not having to worry about going flat out of these corners. I am perhaps short shifting a little bit. I tend to do that just out of fear of the cars in this game. To be fair, this has got... I don't think I've spun the wheels up once, to be honest. I could be more aggressive with the gearing, if you like. Certainly the Raptor was spinning its wheels up more than this car. I mean, yes, the Raptor is a lot more powerful, but the Raptor is four-wheel drive. So, yeah, the Raptor was certainly more difficult on the power delivery. It's just the front of this car is scraping absolutely. I think it's worse than the Ferrari. I'm pretty sure this is worse than the Ferrari. I'm going to have to be very careful. I can't really risk going too close to the inside of these corners to where the dirt is here, because if I clip that, it's game over for the McLaren. It's just going to get chucked around, and yeah, it will have a big crash. I can't risk it in this car. It's too low to the ground. You can get away with it in some of the bigger vehicles, of course. On this fast section, the McLaren is a very quick car. Oh, it just got a little bit light over that jump. That is not a pleasant experience at all. When you go over there and you just lose control of the car. I don't know if we got any airtime in that. There's not too many traffic around here. Don't know if I got any airtime. Oh, that was the danger of clipping the inside. I got away with it big time as we come across the line. Oh, and we get a big sideways moment almost coming across the line. Bloody hell. A scary car to drive, this one. There are a couple of moments there that were not so much fun. Just crossing the line, the back end was wanting to get away from me. and across that jump. I don't actually know if we got airtime or whether it just lifted up, and then when we came back down again, that was a scary, scary moment. The McLaren makes it to the top of the mountain, and amazingly the diffuser is all intact. There should just be little bits of carbon fibre littering everywhere. From that run, yeah, it didn't feel too bad to drive. It felt quite nice. Decent on the power delivery, just a couple of scary moments. But yeah, the scraping on the floor has probably not helped the McLaren's case. And our final vehicle today, it is the Ford Shelby GT500 Mustang. I think the first proper classic vehicle to tackle the course. You could say the circuit hot rod is kind of a classic car. It's kind of a custom thing, so sure. The first proper classic car to tackle the course. Again, we have another fairly sizable wing, fairly sizable on the back of this car. We have the engine sticking out of the bonnet, of course. We have a diffuser on the front, but I don't think it's quite as low as the McLaren's. I think we may just about get away with it on this Mustang. We may be a bit better for the ride height. Yeah, this is a performance class car. On the statistics front, we have got 573 horsepower, almost 600 torques in this car, weighing in at around 3,000 pounds. I think it's quite a good quite a good overall statistics on this car. It may be a little bit heavier than the likes of the McLaren, but we may have a tiny bit more stability. At least I'm hoping that's potential. We are talking about classic Mustang here. We could have terrible problems with a lack of rear end grip. I don't know. I'm just thinking with Forza logic, maybe we'll be okay with the Mustang. Fingers crossed. I would like the Mustang to do well. I do like the Shelby Mustangs. Fantastic cars, these. Yeah, we're about to fire it at Pikes Peak and pray that it doesn't all go horribly wrong. There is always potential for it to go horribly wrong. The traction could be an issue, as there is a I think there's a raid spec Challenger. It's very similar to the one that I have. Go the other way, but it's fine. There is no incidences to worry about through there. Okay, opening corners. How do we drive? Well, we've got wheel spin. We have got a bit of wheel spin. It's not overly surprising, considering we're driving a 600 horsepower Mustang up the mountain. I'm not surprised to see a little bit of wheel spin. To be fair, I think it's doing better than the Raptor, maybe. It's not terrible. It's certainly not terrible on the wheel spin in front. I have got to be a bit careful with it. You can't just completely boot it everywhere. The wildlife are playing it very dangerously on this particular run. We haven't really had any. We haven't really noticed the bumps, felt the bumps in this car as much. It's doing a lot better job of smoothing them over than the circuit McLaren did. Yeah, we've not scraped the front at all on the ground. And if we boost it, yeah, you can just about hear we're certainly spinning up a wheel, but it's certainly nowhere near uncontrollable. There is some slightly weird. I'm not sure I'm a huge fan of this handling. It's a little bit strange on the Mustang. It's got really good turning, and then the back end feels. I think it's just got a lot more front end grip than it has rear end grip. We're not really sliding it around. If we try and correct it, it doesn't like it at all. It's a bit peculiar to drive, I will say that much. It almost feels a little. Like the back end is a little slow to respond to whatever we're doing. It's not sliding everywhere as such. It's not got huge oversteer. It just, we're saying that, we do get it a bit sideways. It's a weird one. One of the weirder cars I think I've driven on the crew. A little bit tricky up here. We're going fairly quickly as we come over the jump. Please don't be as bad as the McLaren. That was better. I had to lift though. I didn't trust it at all over there. I played it a bit. That was a bit risky. With the with the rocks there on the inside of the course. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of this handling. We're going to have no more cars around here apart from something sliding that way. God damn it. And we're going to across the line just about in the Mustang. Okay, we nearly hit, I think it was another Dodge, I'm not sure. We nearly hit something going around the final corner. There's no worse position than normal AI vehicles. Mustang's a funny one. It's a very funny one. It's just sort of like the back of the car is incredibly unresponsive. It's not sliding, it's not oversteer problem that I would expect with a classic Mustang. It'll take a bit of a while getting used to driving this car, I think. It's certainly not my favourite of vehicles to drive up here. Of course, I do like a good Mustang. Quite a weird one to drive. It took a bit of getting used to, but not terrible either. I mean, we didn't have any real problems with the wheel spin, with the traction over the bumps, and of course we weren't scraping the front of the car all the way up the hill, which is always a bit of a bonus. And on to the times. Well, it is quite interesting at the top. The McLaren MP4 finds itself in third. It does not go quicker than the Chevrolet Silverado. I'm guessing it must have just lost too much time with the front of the car scraping along the floor. So amazingly, a GT3 race car goes slower than a pickup truck. But never mind, the Ford Raptor also sets a very good time. Despite it not being my favourite vehicle to drive, it does a 2 minutes 28.9. It's only a second slower than the McLaren. That's not bad, especially considering that wasn't the most exciting, wasn't the nicest car to drive really. Up the course, that's quite a quick time. We have to go further down to find the Shelby GT500 with the 2:33.5, slower than the Hummer. It does go fractionally quicker than the Ferrari. I think that's down to it's just not quite being that nice through the corners. It's not quite got the sort of consistency of grip through the corners that I would ideally like. So yeah, the GT500 is a little further down, but it is quicker than the 458 Italia. Anyway, that is it for this video, guys. So thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.